So I'm sitting here in Tokyo on a hot August night. The summers here in Japan are very hot and humid, and they make it rather difficult to sleep at times. Fortunately for us modern folks, we have air conditioning and electric fans to see us through. But in the old days, they didn't have any of this. And to deal with the oppressive heat and humidity that Japanese summers bring, the people of old times would tell ghost stories. You see, ghost stories would bring on that cold fear, bring those icy fingers down the spine, make your blood run cold, give you goosebumps. So you can kind of see in Japan, that in old Japan, that telling ghost stories in summertime was old-fashioned, all-natural air conditioning. And given today that we're worried about global warming and the sad state of the economy, I think a good way to solve that problem, both of those problems, would be to turn off our air conditioners and just tell ghost stories at night. So to support my idea of saving energy and helping to reduce global warming by telling ghost stories, I will tell a ghost story as well. Well, sort of a ghost story. The story I'm going to tell is an old Japanese story that is not so much about a ghost, but about a cursed kimono that caused great destruction and death. Over almost 400 years ago, when Tokyo was known then as Edo, there was a young girl walking out amongst the crowds of the day, and she happened to spy a handsome young samurai. She had never seen him before, but she was instantly struck by his beauty, and she remembered the kimono that he was wearing that day, the colors, the designs, and she stared at him as long as she could, drinking in his beauty, but eventually he disappeared into the press of the crowd, and the girl couldn't find him. So she went home and she decided to make a kimono of her own based on the memory of the kimono she saw the handsome samurai wearing. Now, she was an unmarried girl, and unmarried girls traditionally wear a type of kimono known as a hurisode, which is a long-sleeved kimono, meaning that the sleeves going down from the arms go down almost to their knees. So she made a hurisode, a long-sleeved kimono, based on the remembrance of the design and colors of that samurai's kimono. She was hoping that if she wore it, perhaps that samurai would see it and find her and would love her. So she made the kimono, and she wore it often, and went out looking for that samurai, but she never saw him again, and she never met anyone that knew of him or the design of the kimono that he wore. Eventually, she pined away for him. She got weak and eventually wasted away and died. Her family took her kimono and gave it to the temple that they frequented. In those days it was common to give the garment of the dead to the local temple. The temple turned around and sold the kimono, seeing that it was such expensive material. They quickly were able to find a buyer, and a young girl, about the same age as the girl who made the kimono, she wore it for one day, and then she fell sick and died shortly after. Though some said that before she died, she complained about seeing a beautiful samurai. Well, her parents also gave the kimono to the temple. And the temple, showing more financial sense than common sense, they turned around again and sold it to another family with a teenage daughter. That teenage daughter wore the kimono one day, and she too sickened and died. And she also complained about a handsome shadow of a man that haunted her. The temple, once again, showing a lack of common sense, sold the kimono one more time, and the same thing happened. The young girl wore the kimono for one day, and then she too sickened and died. At last, the temple, when receiving the kimono from the grieving family, realized that this kimono was cursed and decided to burn the kimono in the temple courtyard. So the head priest or abbot had a fire built and took the kimono out there and put it on the fire. Different versions differ on what happened next, but what is believed what happened is that the kimono, when the fire struck it, leaped from the fire and spread from building to building, spreading that fire with it. And pretty soon the fire grew and grew and became a huge fire that consumed most of Edo and burned for 3 days. Over half of Edo was destroyed in those 3 days, and over 100,000 people lost their lives in the fire. Even the shogun's castle was only saved by great effort, but everything else around it was destroyed. And when the fires burned out after 3 days, bodies still laid in the street for several days more because the smoke was so thick that they couldn't remove those bodies. In history, that fire is known as the Meireki fire, the Great Fire, but others know it as the Furisode fire, the long-sleeve kimono fire. This story should be a lesson to young ladies out there that they shouldn't pine away for young, handsome men that could be spirits. Because some believe that the samurai that the first girl fell in love with really was an evil spirit who put the desire in the girl to make that cursed kimono, which in the end killed 3 other girls and caused such a great fire that killed so many people. And also it should be a lesson to merchants that if you sell a garment that ends up killing more than 2 people, you should stop.